Kapowians! We are Kapow, and if you are looking for comics, cartoons, or collectibles, then we are at your service. I'm Sonya.
And I'm Al, at your service.
Yeah.
Okay, Alfred. Well, luckily, Kings have let us through the door again. We
Yes.
had to bang on the
Let
door
us
for a
in.
while, but they eventually did, which is great, because we've got a lot of reviews to get through.
We
don't
do. What have we got today?
Well, we're looking at the adaptation of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yep.
We're also looking at the first volume of Godzilla.
We are, and now Ray will be along later. He's been collecting up a storm, and he's brought in a couple of XMen figures for us to take a look at. Very cool indeed.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, along that vein, maybe we should have a look at issue 1 of All New X-Men.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yes, it does.
All right,
Well,
then.
it's off that way.
That
Yeah,
way.
just off you go.
Okay. Hey! In the wake of the near-apocalyptic events of Avengers vs. X-Men, things have been changing in the Marvel Universe. Teams have splintered and reformed.
Yeah.
New mutants are popping up like daisies. Scott Summers has gone full-on revolutionary, and everyone is waiting with bated breath to see what happens next.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how the original X-Team would have reacted if they could have seen how things were going to turn out.
Yeah, before Jean Grey became Phoenix.
Yeah, before Beast had to set aside an entire day if he decided to shave.
Well, thanks to writer Brian Michael Bendis, we no longer have to wonder.
Indeed we do not. It's a fascinating premise and a great way to lead in to one of the new Marvel Now titles, All New X-Men.
Yes.
Hank McCoy has decided that the only person who can talk Cyclops out of his mutant revolution is Cyclops, or more specifically, the young, idealistic man that Scott Summers used to be.
So, obviously, he goes back in time to grab the original X-team of Angel, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Iceman, and, of course, Beast,
Yeah.
to kind of bring about an extreme intervention.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think I would love to be in that room.
Oh,
you know, they're all
wouldn't
just
you?
standing there. Scott, we're all just here because we care about you.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a great idea.
It is, and I mean, I've got to be honest, I like everything about this issue. I think it's really cool. I've kind of always gotten a bit tired of the, oh, we're mutants and the humanity hates us because we have mutant superpower kind of
Yeah.
X-Men shtick. And I'm hoping that Bendis will kind of put that in a new light and bring it in a different direction.
Yeah, look, I think he will too. What I'm liking most so far, just with this first issue, is that he's keeping the team small.
Yeah.
You know, that has been one of the things that's pulled me out of X-Men in the past, is there's just too many mutants.
It gets
You know,
overwhelming
they
after a
spoil
while.
the broth. I think that creates a bit of a problem for people to get into it as well.
Absolutely.
You know, just too many of them there. But, you know, I'm hoping it keeps it small because, I mean, you get 20 new mutants coming whenever there's a new generation.
That's right.
20 new names, 20 new skill sets you got to remember. It gets a bit overwhelming.
Well, I mean, we do have 2 new mutants that have popped up
We do.
in this issue. We have Christopher, who seems to be able to heal people, and Eva, who can stop time in a localized area, which is kind of a cool power.
It is.
And the other thing about Eva is that she is Australian. Now, granted, that's not a mutant power in itself, but it's still pretty cool.
It is, and it remains cool because Bendis decides not to put in any cliched Australian dialogue.
Yes.
You know, we do not need an X-Man that says Struth.
No, or crikey.
Oh, crikey, it's Magneto.
Oh,
that would be awful.
don't do that.
That would be awful. So I'm glad that they're not doing that. I mean, it's entirely possible there will be some other new mutants popping in,
Yep.
but I hope he keeps it on the small side because, honestly, it's a really nice, tight story so far.
It is.
And the characters, there's not too many characters.
No, and all the characters look fantastic.
They do.
I mean, I got to mention Beast in particular.
He looks
As
great in
soon
this.
as you open this and you see him in his blue fuzzy glory, I just want to pat him. He's so cute. Well, cute's probably a bad word for Beast. He's
Yeah,
so
maybe.
fierce and
Yeah, but
fuzzy.
he's awesome anyway.
He is. Stuart Immonen has done such a beautiful job with this. He's just created this amazing feast, and he's been supported amazingly by Marta Garcia on colours.
Yeah, fantastically. And I've got to say, with Eminem, he's always had as much luck with the dynamic action. He does it as well as he does the sort of, you know, more detailed human emotion on the
he
faces.
does. It's always really cool. I think the color palette that Garcia has put in with it is really adds another dimension to this. I especially love when they go back, when Hank goes back, and there's kind of a sepia tone to those pages. It's like, yes, we are in the past. That's what's happening.
It's true, but I think there's a different feel on every page.
Yeah, there
and
is.
that really is a testament to the art team on this one, who do a great job. And they include on inks a guy called Wade von Grawbadger. The man with the most ostentatious name in comics.
As stated in the back.
As stated at the back.
Absolutely. Look, I've really enjoyed issue number 1 of All New X-Men. I'm one of those, I read a little bit of X-Men as a kid, I kind of got out of it, and then it would just, like we were saying, it just became so overwhelming. So for me, this is a really nice jumping off point back into the X universe. It's definitely a buy from me. It's got a really interesting story, and the art, like I said, is just amazing.
Yeah, look, I mean, this was one of these Marvel Now titles that I was looking forward to, primarily because of the creative team. You know, they're tried and tested guys here. But this one has exceeded my expectations.
Awesome.
It really has. I mean, I used to read a lot of X-Men when I was younger, but it kind of, I drifted out of it, never got back in, and I've had trouble following more than a few issues since then. But this one, I'm going to keep reading this one.
I can't wait to read the next one.
It really is very good. It's definitely a buy from me as well. Look, if you've ever liked X-Men and maybe you've drifted off like me, this is a great way to get back into it. If you want to get into X-Men for the first time, it's also not at all a bad jumping off point.
I think so.
So yeah, I recommend you check it out.
Awesome. So, Ray, did you read X-Men comics when you were a kid?
No, I didn't, sadly, Sonia. That's because the comic store was too far away. It was about 2 horses away, to be exact.
Wait, 2 horses?
Yeah, I'd kill 1 horse probably trying to get there. That's how far away it was.
But didn't you have a car?
Yeah.
So why didn't you just drive?
Because it was too far away.
But you'd ride a horse.
Sonia, you're confusing me, all right?
You confuse me every week.
I did watch the cartoon, though, and I loved it. Memories. I don't have time to reflect right now.
No. On to work.
Pull it together. All right, given that the Marvel Now line is celebrating a handful of X-Men reboots, the Wolverine is currently shooting, and Bryan Singer has announced the next film, which is Days of Future Past.
Crazy.
I thought we might take a look at a variety of X-Men statues. Now, we don't have enough time to look at them all, so I chose 3, just 3. So all the statues I chose are Bowen statues. Now remember what I said in an earlier episode about Bowen statues?
I do. It was established by Randy Bowen in 1982.
Good memory.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
Now, before we talk about these statues, we wanted to chat about collecting in general. Just, you know, a lot of people, you know, think about how am I going to get started into this. There's a plethora of statues available from various companies, and it can be difficult sometimes to choose. And even though we want them all, you know, it's difficult. We can't always afford that. So here's a couple of tips. Number 1, stick to your guns. By that I mean your favorite characters. It's easy sometimes to be strayed by something that looks awesome for a time, but after a while it won't satisfy the same hunger. So make sure you stick to those favorites, because you're going to be looking at these statues a heck of a lot once you have them on your shelf. Number 2, what's the story? Is it an iconic, stoic sort of statue that you're looking for, a museum piece, or you're looking for something with a bit more movement that's going to be telling a story, a beginning and a middle and an end? Whatever it is, be pedantic. Don't surrender to temptation, you know, without just cause, all right? And number 3, Sherlock it. You want to get in there close. You want to have a look at the detail. You want to be aware of the paintwork, and be critical also of the design. And if you're going to be buying online, have a look to see if they've got something that, you know, a picture that shows the image or the character magnified. Cool. Another good suggestion is to take a look at reviews. Other fans do reviews of figures all the time, so you know they may have seen it in person, and
have more of an advice for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is all very good advice. Very good. Now, so obviously we have quite a collection here.
Yes.
But you've chosen 3 specifically to look at. So why did you choose these 3 guys at the front here, rather than more of a, you know, your classic Wolverine or Magneto or your Rogues?
Well, that's right. I'm tempted to, of course, but these, you know, 3 in particular, I was drawn to their sculpt. They're different, and that's exactly right. They're not the typical fan faves. Like Dazzler here has had a really interesting run as a character since her inception, and you know, I thought that the sculpt was great. It's by Mike Cusinelli. There's not a lot of color to this one, but there's just a few things that make it great. Firstly, you can't escape her pose. There's a lovely balance about her, and what I love is that you could mistake her reaching for a knife or something instead of a microphone. And this is a small hint of blue, and her golden hair make for bold contrasts of color.
And of course, the mirror ball that she's standing on is a fantastic base.
Yes.
She looks like she's like standing on top of the world as well. Like her whole pose is so triumphant and joyful. She looks really lovely, and I really like the paintwork on her costume. I think it's a beautiful pearlescent kind of thing. She's a buy from me. I really think she's beautiful.
Yeah, from me too. Yeah, even though she's not the most detailed figure, there's something really iconic about her pose. Yeah, it suggests sort of everything that her character encompasses in one sort of stoic pose. So yeah, look, it's a buy from me as well.
Excellent.
Now on to our Weapon X Wolverine. This figure is a little more detailed, well, a lot more detailed,
yeah.
and it shows the character in action. There's a lot more movement through the piece, and it tells a bit more of a story. It's sculpted by Tiago Provin, and this just goes to show the scope of work that Bowen produces. It depicts the character on the hunt. He's balanced nicely on the outcropping. Is he going to sniff the air from here, or is he going to leap down to attack his foe?
I also love the smaller details on him, the fine brushwork depicting the hair on his arms, legs, and his chest, the wires hanging off him. It's really cool. The detail in the base as well is really nice. There is a great gradient of color going on there.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of his claws as well. With any Wolverine statue, that is one of the main features I'd look for, and these are excellent. I'm going to give this statue a borrow though. It's a bit more of a fan piece. For myself, I like the Wolverine in the classic costume, and I think this is a little bit niche.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I personally think you're crazy. I think he is amazing. I don't know, maybe because I like something that's a little bit more different, a little standout-ish.
I understand that.
But the other thing is, I mean, if you're a massive Wolverine fan, imagine having this guy, and then you've got Old Man Logan, and you've got Wolverine Brown. Like, come on, that would be an amazing display.
Yeah, I understand that, but I don't know, just, you know, as I said before, you have to pick and choose, and sometimes you just have to cut those ones out, even though they are excellent, as you said.
He is excellent. He's a buy from me. I think he's awesome.
All right, well, we'll move on to our last piece. Sunfire. Now, I chose this piece, yes, the sculpt is great, but it's because I've been into Kings a lot of times, and this particular figure has never caught my eye. But upon closer inspection, you'll come to realize that this statue in particular is quite special. Sunfire is an often overlooked character of the X-Men series. The sculpt is by Khurram Alavi. It depicts him using his superheated plasma to launch himself into the air, but what I love about this statue is this column of plasma. It looks like it has a motion to it, and how it covers his feet and the energy, it's just roaring from him, and you'll see a lot of statues out there that attempt to do this, but here you see it done well. It captures a lot of light and it shows a complexity in it as well, which is really nice.
The detail in his suit is also excellent. I really like how there's kind of a retro 70s vibe to him. The colours, the design, the mask he wears. There's also a nice level of detail around his forearms and his waist and his legs with that gold design. Paintwork on this guy is first class. I'm definitely giving him a buy as well.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
It's a good choice.
Yeah.
And the contrast of something like this figure alone next to all the rest of your collection is going to be quite striking. And yeah, for that, you know, I have to give this one a buy as well. And that leads me to another point as well about how you arrange your collection. Sometimes that can make all the difference. So yeah, that's all the collectibles we have for this week.
It's amazing. I bought everything. I am going to be poor now.
You are, yes, that's
now,
right.
Ray, can you explain this horses thing to me again? Because I've been thinking about this. I have no idea.
We don't have time for this, all right? I don't have time for this.
You're a special kind of mutant yourself, really, aren't you, Ray?
You are.
Stieg Larsson's Millennium Trilogy, and more specifically the first book, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, has become one of those major publishing phenomena of recent times, like Twilight, or Harry Potter, or 50 Shades of Grey, where even if you haven't read the book, you probably know at least something about the plot.
Yeah, and when a book becomes that big, it inevitably gets turned into a movie.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily get turned into a graphic novel.
Well, you've got to ask, you know, when it starts off in the printed medium as a novel and then becomes a movie, what's going to be added by changing it into a graphic novel? And more importantly, I think you need to ask, is the story going to fit into this format? And
in the case of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the answer is no. No, it does not.
Well, look, I do agree with you, but why don't you tell us why, Sonia?
Okay, so let's start with the story, shall we? Good place to start. Now, this is an incredibly dense narrative book. It features a lot of people talking, sitting and talking, standing and talking, walking and talking, thinking about talking.
Yeah.
So one begins to wonder, How is that going to work in a graphic novel?
Well, yeah, that was actually my concern before I even opened this one. I have read the original novel, and I was thinking back and going, how is this actually going to work?
Yeah, and largely it doesn't. And I don't blame the writer, Denise Mina. I mean, she's got a great body of work behind her. She's a prolific crime writer as well as doing work on Hellblazer.
Yeah.
It's just, it seems to me like it was one of those projects that was kind of doomed from the start.
Yeah, well, I mean, the style of story that we've got here, coupled with the restrictions that the format puts on it, it ends up with a story that feels not only rushed, but also somehow quite boring.
Yeah, a little tedious.
It's an odd couplet.
It is. Okay, so but for people who maybe don't know the story, we should probably
Sure,
a few little
yeah,
plot
yeah,
points.
let's do that.
Okay, so Girl with the Dragon Tattoo follows a financial journalist called Mikael Blomqvist, and he gets hired to investigate a 40-year-old murder.
Yeah, at the same time it follows a girl named Lisbeth Salander, who's an investigator, and also has Asperger's syndrome, which is an autism-related disorder that manifests often in high levels of intelligence, but also in lack of empathy and a difficulty with social cues.
Now, see, on that, from reading the graphic novel, I would not know that about Lisbeth. From what I get in the graphic is that she's a bit withdrawn, she's a bit depressed, she likes to wear a lot of black, but that's it.
See, but that's one of these problems in the format that I honestly don't really blame them that much for.
No.
The fact is, when you've got to tell this much story in this format, you don't really have that much time to go into character personalities, so a lot of that has to rest on the artwork.
That's right.
And unlike the cover art by Lee Bermejo, which is honestly,
spectacular.
It's really, really good. I was
Yeah.
quite excited when I saw that. I don't think the artwork inside is really up to the task.
No, now look, I do like some of the compositions, I like some of the framing, especially like the environments that Leonardo Manco and Andrea Mutti have created.
Yeah.
But there's a problem when it comes to character faces. There's not enough nuance, and there's a big problem with consistency. A lot of the
Yeah.
faces you're kind of going through going, wait, is that Mikael or
they
is
can
that
often be
somebody
a
else?
little interchangeable,
They
which
were,
was
yeah.
unfortunate. But look, I would like to take this moment to state the thing that was the biggest bother for me,
Okay.
that caused me the most problem, is that there are only 2 moments in this that are actually moments of action, and they both revolve around sexual violence. Now, I'm not saying they should have been left out. They're actually quite important to the
integral
story.
to the
They're
story,
important
yeah.
factors. But in this sort of format, when that's the only action that we get in it, it just puts too much focus on them. And in this style, it ended up almost being the whole point of the book.
It really does. Like, I know when I kind of closed the book and was thinking about it, that was the thing that stuck in my mind the most, which it shouldn't.
Not really.
But the problem is when you've got so many static frames of, like we said, people just sitting there and talking.
yeah.
When you get a couple of pages of this, because it's quite spread out.
Goes on a
very
bit.
graphic rape. That's all that you can think of, and it's not balanced with the rest of the book. This graphic only takes in half of the actual novel as
Yeah.
well, so there's something wrong there. It doesn't
Well, that
quite
was
flow.
the problem. I mean, in the actual novel, there's a lot more action near the end.
Yeah,
that
so
kind of
it balances it,
Yeah,
yeah.
balances out, exactly. And where they halved it as well, that was also a problem.
It was perplexing.
It was frankly a bit bizarre.
It was.
Where they cut it off, because there's no real climax there, and there's not even any sense of cliffhanger or anything like that. I actually found myself flipping back and forward on that last page, going, "Did I miss something?
It's a bit missing.
What's the point? I don't get it."
Yeah, I know. Look, adaptations of novels or movies or TV shows are notoriously difficult, especially when it's got such a huge fan base.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo just doesn't have what it needed to be a great graphic novel in itself. I'm going to be very harsh. I'm sorry, but it is such a big book. I'm giving it a berry.
Okay, look, it's harsh, but it's
I like
fair.
doing
I
it.
mean, I was concerned when we actually saw on the back cover, there's a whole bunch of endorsements about the novel.
Book.
You know, and I just went, well, that's disingenuous to start with, because this isn't the novel. This is a graphic novel, and honestly, an ill-conceived one that I don't think should have been greenlit.
No, neither do I.
Again, I don't blame the creative team
Not at
overall. There were a few flaws, but could have been easily overlooked. I just don't think it suited the format at all. So, yeah, I'm going to give this one a berry as well.
Sad.
I'm going to go back, read the novel. Yeah. Might see the film as well.
Okay.
It's supposed to be good.
Let me ask you a question.
What, me or them?
Well, kind of both, but you're the one that's going to answer, aren't you?
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay. What would you think of Jason Statham fighting giant monsters?
Okay, I got to say that would be pretty sweet.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Which is great, because that's basically what the trade paperback of Godzilla is.
Godzilla?
No, you did that gag last week.
No, you're right, I did. Okay, scratch that.
We don't
okay.
do double gags.
All right, we won't do that again. But look, I've got to say, it's not actually Jason Statham in this.
No, it's not.
It's not. I mean, the main character, Boxer, he is British. He is ex-Special Forces. He looks exactly like Statham, and every line that he says I was reading in his voice, but it's not actually him.
No, but I do feel like artist Simon Gain may have been watching all 3 Transporter films just before he started drawing Godzilla.
Okay, maybe. But let's move past that.
Okay.
Boxer is basically an ultra-hardcore dude who's on a revenge quest to kill Godzilla. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And he gathers a like-minded group of similarly hard-as-nails partners to help him, well, systematically blow up most of the major cities in the world in an effort to kill every giant monster they can find.
Absolutely.
At a fee of $7 billion per monster.
Yeah, so that's $1 for every person on the planet.
Give or take.
Yeah, it's good. It's a gleefully demented premise, really.
It is,
And what
yeah.
I liked the most was the fact that Godzilla actually isn't the main focus of the book.
No.
There's a whole bunch of monsters running around, and people just kind of deal with them like they would natural disasters.
Yeah.
Which is great, because it means that you don't get that, no, it can't be a monster.
Oh wait, something just ate Jeff.
Oh.
Couldn't be a monster though.
Couldn't be a
No,
monster.
We skip past that,
We
which
get
is
to
good.
go past all of that. I mean, a giant spider smashes into a church on the first page of this.
That's true.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, Dwayne Swazinski just doesn't waste any time in this one. On pretty much every page, there's something exploding, or falling down, or catching on fire. But you know what? It's a book about giant monsters, so what else are you going to expect?
It does move along at a cracking pace.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, but never to the detriment of the actual characters.
Yeah.
Each one has their own voice that's really defined and very strong. Even in the case of Harrison, who's a mute through all of this, he's got this really nice internal monologue, so you know exactly what his motivation is.
Yeah, you get his personality through that.
You do.
Yeah.
The pace, the dry wit, the fact that there's just crazy action going everywhere, and that it doesn't kind of fall into the melancholy, oh, the world is ending kind of thing, means that this is a really fun book to read.
Yeah, and I think Gaines' artwork sort of matches that tone.
Yeah.
We never see anything there's no torn bodies or anything like that.
Yep.
They're usually under a pile of rubble. So it never gets into that sort of, that dark area.
Yeah.
It stays fun. And I mean, the artwork itself, it's all thick, blocky lines and, chunky textures.
Yeah.
And in some ways reminded me of some of Eduardo Risso's work.
Absolutely.
Which I really like. I mean, look, boiled right down, this is a creature feature story, So if you like monster movies, you'll probably like this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I really love the kind of classic monster movies, the claymation with the polystyrene buildings and stuff, and that's what I love about these monsters. They're all kind of classic monsters.
yeah.
Godzilla, big neck, little head, big tail, crashing things. It's amazing. You can almost hear that screech of his. It's awesome.
You really can. I mean, and between Rodan, Batra, and a whole bunch of others. I mean, this story may be light on plot, but it's heavy on monsters, so you're going to have fun with that. Look, when I first read this one, I put it down, I thought I was probably going to give it a borrow.
No.
No, not in a bad
Not
way,
in a bad
just
way.
that it's kind of a popcorn story.
Yeah.
But then I picked it up and read it again. And again, I read it about 3 times because it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm going to give this one a buy.
Well, I pretty much knew I was giving this one a buy within about 5 pages because I was having tremendous fun reading this. It's just hilarious. It kind of just takes me back to the monster craziness of my childhood. And the creative team have kind of taken everything you want in a monster movie and have put it all into a monster comic, which is great. And I kind of disagree with you on the light on the plot thing. I think it's got a fine plot. It's got monsters. It's got monster versus monsters. It's got a government conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's got Boxer's boss coming in after him.
It's all kind of by the numbers stuff, really. I mean, it's...
Sonzilla. Well, that is all we've got time for this week, but we will be back.
Yes.
We'll be taking a look at issue number 1 of Clone.
Fantastic, but not only that, we're also announcing a big new competition next
a big
week, so you
competition?
can't miss that.
What are we giving away?
No, I can't.
Give me a hint.
We're going to announce it next week.
Is it a pony?
No.
Is it a Lamborghini?
No.
Is it Optimus Prime?
No.
Is it an
Goodbye.
adipose?
No.
Is it a TARDIS?
No.
Is it Doctor Who himself?
No, of course
Is it a
it's not.
life-size Yoda?
No.
Is it a monkey?
No.
Oh, please let it be a monkey.
Leave me alone.
Come on, tell me.